Joining us this afternoon is Luke Burton. Now, Luke's an old Halean who's gone on to have a really successful professional rugby career. He's currently playing out of America. He's currently in Perth, but he's playing over in the American League and has, I think, a really interesting story for our boys to hear. Now, joining me today is our first 15 coach and also Luke's coach back in the day, Steve McFarland. But Luke, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate you giving up a little bit of time.
Pleasure, and thank you for having me, guys.
No worries. Now, we're going to start. I'll start asking a few questions about your time at Hale. Can you tell us a bit about the sports you played here? Obviously, you played rugby, but what else did you do both in the community and for Hale?
Yeah, so I went to Hale in year 8, and straight away, a big reason for going to Hale was obviously the top education, but also the rugby system. My parents are South African, so my dad was like, okay, we want to put him in a strong school where there's a good, base for sport as well. And so I got into the rugby early, in year 8 all the way to year 12. So that was a big investment of time and energy. So I was playing rugby year 8, year 9, and then Steve, you picked me up in the first 15 in year 10. And along those years, I was playing water polo in the summer. So winter, I would do rugby for Hale, and then in the summer, water polo. And then in the summer, outside of school sport, I was doing the Australian Academy training down in Western Force. So I would train 5 times a week in the afternoon. So those were the only 2 sports that I could really have time for.
Okay. And water polo would have helped your rugby, wouldn't it?
It did. No, it definitely. The fitness. Also, it's quite aggressive. You have to know how to move your body and also use the other person's body in your favour. So there was a bit of that, and then also I did the surfing at Hale, which was pretty fun, and then the house sports and everything like that, which was good.
Awesome. On house sport, what house were you in, and what were your memories of house sport? Obviously, and a lot of old Halians look back at those times as great experiences.
Yeah, I was Lowton, so I'm Lowton proud. We wear the orange very proud.
Okay.
In the F block under the history class.
Steve's shaking his head right now, but that's all right. Keep going. Don't listen.
Yeah. What you are? So you St George's, no?
Me, I didn't go to Hale. No, I wasn't a Hale boy. No. Steve's in Bunteen though. Bunteen, yeah.
You're in Bunteen. That's no good. That's no good.
No.
No, I loved house sport. I think it was every Wednesday in the afternoon we'll do... Is it still Wednesdays?
Yep.
You guys do house sport?
Yeah.
Every Wednesday. That was a lot of fun. We did the touch rugby. That was big. I used to do that, and then a bit of basketball. I tried the cricket. I wasn't very good at that. And then the ultimate frisbee. But I loved house sport.
That's a good mix.
And then a bit of banter with the other the houses, which was always good.
Okay. Now, in terms of PSA competition, obviously you said you got picked in the first 15 in year 10. Steve's a good selector, isn't he? He can see talent. What was the best?
Me out there.
Yeah. What was the best sporting win you can remember for Hale? Might be rugby, might be a different sport, but why do you remember it to this day?
Oh, it's definitely rugby. There's a lot, Steve. I would have to say, I think there's been a few good wins, but I was year 12, and then we had the brother Redmond on the line. And this was, I think it would have been like the 10th year or something like that in a row. So it was a bit to it. And then we had a game against Guildford away. And Guildford were talking themselves up that year. They had a few guys in the state for Western Australia. So they really thought they were going to take it from us. And Guildford is out in the sticks, so it's a big travel there.
Yeah,
it was a big game, and then I remember before the game they had all the Guildford boys on the pitch, and the captain was giving them this inspirational speech, and then we ran on, and then it was one of our best performances. I think we put about 40 points on them, and that's all she wrote. We won the Brother Redman, and then, but there's a few others. I remember we had a big Scotch game at home in year 11. That was a big one we won because they beat us just once, I think the year before that year. And then Also, my final home game on Hale was against Christchurch, and also we always love beating Christchurch, so that was a pretty good game.
That hasn't changed.
That was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Luke, I recall the two of the games you mentioned.
Yeah.
The Guildford one, which I think they had a huge crowd out there, and
they did.
I think
it was a massive crowd.
Yeah, they were sort of taking out the game with the, with I think we led by 30 at half time, and like you, that would probably rank as one of my best memories. And then the Christchurch one, we nearly blew it the next week. And funnily enough, they had a kick to put them, I think, 8 or 9 points clear in front of the Poles, because we had a bit of a wobble. And they turned the kick down, and we managed to come back and win. So we nearly blew it the week later, if you recall.
Yeah, but I think a turning moment, Luke, was on that Guildford game, was actually Steve's halftime speech. So we were doing well, but we weren't. Our attitude, because there's some passages of players where you put the knife to the sword, and our attitude was a little bit off. I remember, Steve, you came pretty hard at us, which we needed, and that just changed the momentum. And then the second half, everyone was shut out. Like the crowd was quiet. We put on tries, and it was very clinical.
Awesome. Winning away, it's probably at every level. It's just got that little bit more satisfaction, doesn't it? Winning away from home.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Now, you left Hale, maybe 10-ish years ago. You now play rugby in America. Can you give us a little shortened version of that journey from, Hale first 15 to, playing in California?
Yeah, geez, 10 years. I feel a bit old now. But, no, there's a lot been going on since then. So I'll keep it short. But so back in my day, we finished school when we were 17, which was good. So when I was 18, I played a full year of club rugby in Perth for Steve for UWA. They gave me a good base and then the following year when I was 18 turning 19, end of that summer I did a full pre-season with the Western Force, and then I tried out for the show in the 20s. I got selected when I was just 18 turning 19, went to the World Cup, and then after that World Cup, I knew if I made the show in the 20s, then I can have a professional career, because you are putting yourself, you're the best of the best in the league, in the country, and they can see you on an international platform. And then once I played in that World Cup, I got offers, and then I signed with the Force, played in another World Cup in the under 20s a year after, made my debut when I was 20 in South Africa for the Force, played I think three or 4 years there. And then when I was 23 in 2017, the Force, you all know, they got cut from Super Rugby. So I was sort of in a situation where it was like, what do I do now? Do I go sign over the East Coast, and then France, Biarritz, that's the southwest of France. They a French club. They messaged my manager. They called them and said, we'd like to sign him because they sent through my footage. So I was living in France for 2 years. I played 2 seasons there. That was an amazing experience. Just the culture, learning the language, and also just the way that they go about life, which was really interesting.
Yeah.
It was quite, when I first got off the plane, our first team meeting everything was in French, and then we had a game that weekend, and I was like, wow, what about, this is going to be quite an experience. So I was there for 2 years, and then after that, I was like, I was going to look to come back and sign in Australia, or I was going to sign again in France. But then I heard about San Diego and the whole American League kickstarting, and then they reached out, and then I saw that opportunity, and I'm like, wow, I'm gonna take this, because they have really good coaches there, some really good players, and I just see it as a massive opportunity, and I'm very grateful that that's where I'm at now.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks, sir.
Berto, you've always been a keen surfer, as you alluded to earlier, and I know that the two areas or places you've gone to have been surfing meccas, with Hossega down in southwest of France, and San Diego. How have you managed to tie in the surfing with your rugby career? Yeah,
so to be honest, I think, I don't know how it happened, but Biarritz, southwest of France, one of the best surf in all of Europe. And now San Diego is one of the best surf. And then obviously living in Perth it's beautiful beaches, all westerly sunsets. So I always see the sun set in the west. But the training's always very hard during the week, and I'm also quite tired in the afternoon. But when I do have my days off, I definitely go surf. Like in France, I would go up to Hossegor a lot on the weekends.
What about the sharks? Aren't there a lot of sharks outside San Diego?
There are actually quite a few sharks, but I think they're quite passive. They're not like the great whites here in Oz.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, no, surfing's always been there. So I'm stoked that I can play rugby and also get a few waves.
Hey, speaking about the Sharks, was that your first Western Force game?
Which one? No, that was I played against the Stormers in Newlands.
And what are your memories of that, Luke? I mean, sort of.
That was an amazing experience because my family are from Cape Town, so I remember I got called up for the South African tour just the week before, and then because I was training with the Aussie 20s, so I didn't get pulled out. And but that week I actually had the flu. I was sick as a dog, so I was a little bit uncertain about how I'd feel on game day. I remember the doctor was like giving me all this vitamin C and all these, supplements to help my immune system. But when it came to game time, everything just left, and it was just like, okay, I'm on the field. This is it. This is everything I've worked for. And it was a surreal moment, like being especially in Cape Town. I had my granny come out, my auntie that were there, and then I think I was playing 12, marking Damien Delunde. I remember he had that first carry, and then who was that? Dwayne Vermeulen, all those big boys. So I had a few tackles on them. Once I made a good tackle on them, then I got into the game. But no, that was amazing. And then the week after, we played the Lions at home, and then from there, that's when things started to roll on. But no, it was definitely special and something I hold very close to my heart.
Yeah. But you've always, I know, I remember you as a year 10, it's an area of the game you've never shied away from is tackling. And I don't know if you recall I think you were year 10 and we played a game at Subiaco against Scotch, and they had a couple of big boys who they tried to put down your channel, including Ollie Hoskins, who's now playing professionally.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, in London.
Yeah.
In your 2 years in France, I mean, you've spoken about obviously the surf, but I know you'd mentioned to me in the past that the way French rugby is run was something that you had sort of experienced before.
Yeah, definitely. So, obviously, growing up in Perth, where the sun's always out, and then Australian rugby, it's like we always play fast. I've always played quick. I've always tried to bring up the tempo, hit the line flat, and and run before I kick. Now, when I went to France, the summer's nice, but when it comes to the winter, it's a whole other story. And especially there's the Pyrenees, the mountains. So the mountains attract the rain. I remember for like a month, it would just rain non-stop. So what I learned playing in France was using kicking and strategies as a weapon and creating pressure. So in your half, 1, 2 phases, 3 phases, if you're not going anywhere, or even if you are going somewhere, you put the ball down in their end, because you back your defense, trap them, and then if they can't get out, you counter and use their forced errors. And also, so using kicking was massive, and also how you receive a kick. Like, if you kick the ball to a New Zealand team, they're going to counter-attack. They're going to, punish you. But in France, if they kick you the ball, okay, I'm going to put it back. And then it'll be like a kick tennis. Or I have a crack, I have a counter-attack, and then 2 phases later, the fullback's out of position because he was the one that chased the kick, and then I kick.
Yeah.
So those little strategies and patches of play, like, I've really coupled with playing a fast tempo game. So.
Yeah. And Luke, I believe, and you've said to me in the past how political French rugby is, with the chairman and coaches being moved out at a fairly regular rate.
Yeah, so that's actually a big reason why I didn't sign on in France, because the politics is massive. The French, they're quite emotional people, so they like to create a bit of a scene. So when I was there, we had a really good coach, Gonzalo Quesadilla. He's coached Argentina, so Francais. He's now the Jaguars coach in Super Rugby. But he was there, and then we had 5 different presidents, all due to different reasons. Politics, guys getting fired. And then he resigned on the second year in France because of all the politics upstairs. And then we had another coach, and then he got, forced out. So it's just, there's like, and that's been like for decades in France. The politics, the stuff behind the scenes, and a lot of the thing is, in France, you remembered as, you're only as good as your last game. So say you play amazing for a few games, and then you have one shocker, then they write you off. Yeah. So it's important you consistently play well. That's what I learned early, is also how you start as well. Because being a foreigner, when they sign us, they expect us to give all the answers. Okay, we signed you across from Australia. Okay, now deliver. So I knew when I got off the plane, I'm like, okay, I have to perform, and I did perform, which helped, but the politics aspect was just, it was very draining, and it was just like, a bit like that.
Luke, obviously, and you recall at Hale, we always spoke obviously about, the team and what is a team player. If you think back to your time at Hale, certainly, who was the best player that you played with at Hale in the sense of you put the team first and it was someone you could always look to in difficult times?
That's an easy one. I'll have to say Lockie Valentine. Okay. I really love Lockie. So when I was in year 10, he was 2 years older than me, so he was in year 12, and he was the first 15 captain. And he gave me the nickname Bambi because I was the youngest, and I was like, I was a bit like that. So he used to call me Bambi. But playing with him, and when Lockie was ever around the boys, he's always for the boys. He's always team first. He's an amazing player. It's such a great guy, and just his energy and his upbeat was really important for us. And then also outside of school, I played with him and played against him as well. But just those qualities of being selfless, putting the others first, but also being strong and leading with your actions. Sure. Those are important qualities.
Look, at the moment, obviously, we've got a very sort of surreal situation in which we're living, and all sorts of people across all sorts of sectors are facing various challenges, health-wise, and sort of from the economy as well. From your time playing, were there any sort of major hurdles that you had to overcome, and what advice would you give to the boys going forward if they're facing difficult challenges?
Yeah, definitely throughout my career I've had some tough times. The biggest one was when I was 22. So when I was 21, I had my big year at the Force. I played every game, started most of the games, and then in pre-season, end of that year, I ruptured a ligament in my foot, which is the Lis franc, which is like a really bad ligament to rupture. So I had surgery. I had to get flown to Brisbane to see the best surgeon, had surgery, had 4 screws put in. I was on crutches for like a month, 2 months, had to teach myself how to walk again in the pool. And I came back on 4 months, which I would say it's pretty premature. And then in my first game against the Blues, I re-ruptured it. I sort of stepped and I put my foot down and I heard a crunch. So then I re-ruptured it, and then I had to get a surgery again, and then so that sat me out for a few months. And just going through that time was really tough because you obviously can't do what you want to do, and then the mind can play games on you. But in terms of those tough periods where things aren't going well or you can't see light at the end of the tunnel, it's important to go back to why you're doing this, who you're doing it for, and also what makes you tick. So you have to go back to your purpose, and these are things you can write down. Why am I doing this? Why am I getting up every day training? Why am I putting in the work? It's all personal, and then that really kept my head on on the track and kept my hunger there. And then also throughout my career, like, you know, you have ups and downs, and then coaches, you have meetings with coaches, and sometimes it doesn't go the best, and you hear some stuff that, you know, can hurt you and you can take personally. But you have to put that aside and say, okay, I've been told this, you know, this is what I need to improve on, or this, that, and you've got to use that fuel and know what you want and know what you need to do to achieve it, and always back yourself and believe.
Yeah, I think it's really good. Look, so often with professional athletes, you just, you know, from the public, you just go hearing from highlight to the next highlight to the next achievement, and you know, the public don't get to see. And I think it's great for our boys at home to hear. You know what I mean, that there are troughs there. You know what I mean, there are hurdles that, you know what I mean, and that's why there's probably so much joy and satisfaction when you do, you know what I mean, get contracts or win, you know, and get team achievements, or, you know, and you know, achieve things in the game that, you know, people don't see what's away from the cameras enough, I don't think. So
yeah, definitely. Like, a big thing is, so obviously in sports, you know, you sign contracts for 2 years, 3 years, or 1 year, or 1+1s. And in that second year, say you sign a 2 year, you've had your first year, but that first year, you know, you need to put in the work to get re-signed in that second year. But say things don't go to plan in that first year, then that second year, that's what you're banking on.
Yeah.
So the stress levels are quite high. You know, you can a bit of anxiety. And I remember the one time I was in Argentina. We played a game, and then I sat down with the coach, and then, you know, there was one thing about selection. I'm like, asked him a question. He's like, oh, you know, it was like quite a confrontational like message that was given, and I was like really taken back. But then the next week, like, you have to reflect on that, and you go back and you talk, and then that's when you get an improvements. Is when you hear something, just let it process, you know, don't be reactive. And because end of the day, you know where you want to get, and all this information you get is there to help you.
Yeah, that's great advice, Luke.
There are definitely ups and downs. You have to stay positive, because when there are the good times, then it's so much richer, and because you know the work and the hustle and the struggle before that. That's why I sort of...
Yeah, that's great for our boys to listen to. Now, we're just going to finish with two questions on quite a lighter note. The first one's on Birkenstocks. Now, I'm not sure what it was like when you were at school, but it's kind of, they're creeping in a little bit here. And being an East Coaster, I think it's like a little bit, you know, and it's not great, to be honest. They look ugly. They're from, you know, and that's what, you know, was worn in biblical times. Now, does Luke Burton wear Birkenstocks in San Diego?
Mate, definitely not. To be honest, I'm not a Birkenstock hater. Like, do you? You know, if you want to wear it, you can wear it. But being honest, I did wear it. You know, I think a few years ago. I think it was like a little trend back in the day.
Yeah.
But it's not for me. I'm more slides. You know, I'm comfort. Like, I'm even socks and slides in the morning. Like,
okay, the answer was going well there to that last little bit, socks and slides, but that's all right.
But that's on the way to training. That's like, I'm seeing no public. I'm just... so that's all right.
And the other thing, it was probably the same back in your day here. That were you a boarder or not? You a day boy?
No, I was a day boy.
Day boy, but there's the boarders. That's right. On Tuesdays, there's pie day here, where the boarders and the staff, we get 5 different options of pie, and some
Jesters?
of the... Sorry?
Is it still Jester's pie?
Oh, I don't know, actually. No, there's not. They're not labelled, actually. They're just all put out there. There's, you know, tandoori chicken or beef or beef and mushroom. And some of the ways the boarders eat pies is pretty disturbing.
The way boarders do a lot of things is quite disturbing.
That is truth right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
I support it, yeah.
So some of the boarders, they take, you know, in the roofs off the pie, and they put sauce in. We've even heard a boarder put the actual sauce bottle in the pie physically, because the sauce gets deeper in the pie. How does, you know, not that you have many meat pies in San Diego, but now you're back in Perth, how would Luke Burton eat a meat pie?
Mate, I had a meat pie last week, because I was down south in Dunsborough.
Yeah. Best
meat pie ever is the Dunsborough ones,
okay.
Bakery. I get steak, onion and cheese pie, and then I get 2 sauces, because you can't be shy on the tomato sauce. And then
2 sauces. What do you mean? You get so same sauce in 2 hands.
Yeah, no, you know, you buy the, you know, at the bakeries, you buy the little.
Oh yeah, the little snap lock packets. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, the snap one. Always get 2 of them, 2 to 3.
Yeah.
and then I squirt on the corner, start on the corner, have a bite, squirt. So every single bite, there's a bit of sauce, and then I work my way and finish it off. That's how I do it.
No utensils?
Nah, straight hand.
Yeah, good.
I break the packet, lay it out, get the pie, have a coffee, get some sun. It's a whole combination.
Yeah, that's good. And I think we've found from asking this question, there's nothing better than a good meat pie, but there's nothing worse than a meat pie that's too hot. Like that is danger time right there. If you get a hot meat pie or a burning meat pie is just the hardest thing to eat in the history of food.
No,
So
definitely.
anyway, mate, like we won't keep you anymore. But thanks for sharing your stories, sharing your journey. There'll be a lot of boys listening to this over the next couple of weeks at home, and hopefully.
Awesome.
The situation clears a bit. You can get back over to America in the next couple of months and keep going with your career, wherever that may take you. And appreciate it, Steve. You want to say?
Thanks very much, Luke. Catch up at some point. And
my pleasure.
As I said, your journey is certainly one that I think the boys will appreciate. And we've put the little highlights package of yours onto our OneNote page, so boys can see you in action. So thank you.
Well, thanks, Luke and Steve. Thank you for having me. And boys, always back yourself. And Hale's always number one. Don't ever forget that. Oh, Hale, you beaut.